Team, the date today is the 6th of July and we are starting a new training block for the Live, Perform and Compete program. For this video, we're going to try to do things a little bit differently. The words are going to be popping up on the screen somewhere, which will outline new movements that you'll see in your training cycle. We're also going to talk about some tests that we're going to be testing at the end of this training block. For the Live program, a couple of highlights in your next training cycle. We're going to be doing Bulgarian split squats. We haven't been doing heavy single leg work in a long time, so it's really important that we do balance out and reintroduce this movement. With your pull-up work, you're going to be doing heavier stuff because generally speaking, we've been doing more pulling endurance. We're going to reintroduce the squat clean movement. So those of you who are new to Olympic lifting, we're now receiving that bar below parallel. Because we had some really good front squat results from the last testing block, we're now probably adapted and ready to rock and roll with some more dynamic squatting. At the end of your training cycle for the Live program, expect to see some of these tests. We're going to be testing your Bulgarian split squat 6 rep max. We're going to be testing a back squat absolute strength test, probably between 3 to 5 reps. We're going to be testing a deadlift absolute strength test, probably again between 3 to 5 repetitions. And we're going to be testing pull-up absolute strength. So that's going to be either an AMRAP set of pull-ups at your body weight if you can do less than 5, or a weighted pull-up for something heavy. For the Perform program, you'll obviously see somewhere on the screen your priorities for the next training cycle. Now, some reasoning here. First, you're going to see muscle-ups back into the training program. We haven't done muscle-ups in a long time, and you're probably aware of this. Reason being, we started by developing strict strength, both absolute strength and the endurance qualities of that. We then started to reintroduce toes to bar and chest to bar and building capacity there. So now we're prepped and ready to rock and roll with muscle ups. We only just introduced the pull up and the chest to bar in the last training cycle. So we've only had 3 to 4 weeks of exposure. So we're going to continue to increase capacity on those two movements. Another movement you'll see is a strict handstand push-up. We really haven't been doing much handstand push-up work at all. Instead, most of our strength work has come from overhead pressing. It's time to reintroduce that strict movement, which we often see in the sport. Within weightlifting, really happy to see some fantastic numbers going up on the front squat. In this next training cycle, we're going to focus a little bit more attention on the back squat, whilst the front squatting movements will move to a squat clean. No more power cleans. We're going to reintroduce the push jerk. Reason being, we've started to develop some dynamic overhead strength with the push press over the last 5 to 6 weeks. We're now reintroducing that second dip in the receiving position in the push jerk, the movement that's really frequently tested in the sport. Our snatching work, really happy where we got to with regard to our overhead squat tests and also the positional awareness that we're generally increasing across the board. Now it's time to expose ourselves to some heavier snatching. Some testing that you can expect to see at the end of your training block for the Perform group. You're going to see some back squat absolute strength testing, some deadlift absolute strength testing, which we've just started working on. We're going to be testing the muscle up in some capacity, and we're also going to be doing a capacity test for the kipping pull-up and the kipping chest bar. For the Compete program, you can see your training priorities on this screen. Breaking those down, reintroducing the muscle up for you guys. I'm expecting to see good things here given how much work we've done on dipping, pressing, and absolute pulling strength with strict movements. We've also just reintroduced the kipping pull-up and chest bar in the last block, so I think that our mechanics and our bodies are ready to start to handle the more dynamic movement of the muscle up. You will also see increases in volume on the pull-up and chest bar, probably more in an isolated setting for the next 4 to 8 weeks. We'll be reintroducing strict handstand push-ups into the program, giving our subscribers different options to pick there based on your ability levels, because we generally have in the Compete group quite a large disparity in the strict handstand push-up department. Within weightlifting, some things we're going to start to focus on is the back squat, because we spent a lot of time focusing on the front squat and had some really good testing results there. So when we test this back squat at the end of this training cycle, we will be comparing our front squat to our back squat scores, and we have some optimal ratios that we're looking for from our subscribers. We're moving away from the power clean and starting to introduce a squat clean. Reason being, we've built a good front squat now, so it's time to add some more dynamic Olympic lifting moving into the squat position. We'll be reintroducing more in an isolated fashion, some shoulder to overhead endurance, moving away from the push press a little bit more and moving to the movement we see more frequently tested in the sport, which is the push jerk. We're not hitting split jerks just yet. Your last priority for the Compete training group is we're going to be moving towards heavier snatching. Reason being, we've just done 8 weeks of really progressive lower intensity, time under tension with our overhead squat, as well as addressing our snatch position. So it's time to put those two things together and see what we can lift. Some testing that you can expect to see at the end of this training cycle. We're gonna do a back squat absolute strength test, anywhere between 1 to 3 repetitions. A deadlift absolute strength test, again, anywhere between 1 to 3 repetitions. Some form of muscle up capacity test, some form of pull up or chest to bar capacity test. Just to close this video out, remember it's really important to us, to all our subscribers in the process programming, that we get you this educational information so you guys know exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or any of the other process programming coaching team, or of course you can leave your questions on the water cooler and one of us will jump in for a conversation.